Hi, Julie Ashmore here, and I'm making some revision videos for you, going back over the slides in Paradise Lost. Just a very quick whiz through to aid you going back over them and making your notes. So let's start at the beginning. I'm not going to do a lot on context with these. I'm literally just going to go through the content. So as we know, Satan has found his way into the garden. He enters into the serpent, and Adam and Eve in this section are going to have a conversation about how they should spend their day. Also in book 9, Satan finds Eve alone, convinces her that she should at least come and see this tree. She says, hey, we're not allowed to eat that. And he's like, look, what's going to happen? Maybe God just doesn't want you to be better than him. So she eats it. She has a quick debate with herself about whether she should tell Adam. Adam decides before she asks him to join with her. Then they have amazing sex. Then they wake up after a troubled sleep, full of shame and guilt. So, all of the books so far have been about Adam learning about the world he's in, then asking for a co-partner, Eve being created from his rib. Now book 9 changes. The tone changes and the purpose changes. Remember that Milton has said that he wants to justify the ways of God to man. No more of talk where God or angel guessed with man as with his friend. I now must change those notes to tragic. All that nice stuff is over. Now we get to the heart of the epic tragedy. We discover that Satan has found his way in. He's roamed the orb and he's considered every creature until he finds the serpent. And after long debate, he chose fit vessel, fittest imp of fraud, in whom to enter, and his dark suggestions hide from sharpest sight. So already we're getting those themes of disguise, deception, concealment. He will not present to Adam or Eve in his own form, and he's chosen the poo snake. I have such sympathy for the snake here. So that's what he's done. He's hidden himself in the snake. And we might want to already start thinking about the doll's house and about disguises that people take, maybe even unconsciously, that they're in a disguise. He looks around at the world that he finds himself in, and he has to admit that it is beautiful. And he says, with what delight could I have walked thee round if I could joy in aught? But I in none of these find place or refuge. I think the word refuge is important there. Perhaps a slight hint at Satan's vulnerability. And the more I see pleasures about me, so much more I feel torment within me. So the fact here is that it doesn't matter how beautiful Eden is or how innocent and good Eve is, he cannot enjoy any of it. And he doesn't hope to be less miserable, doesn't think that he'll feel any better, but he is determined to make others feel bad, though thereby worse to me redound, even though he knows that he will suffer more because of it. For only in destroying I find ease to my relentless thoughts. Often we see this with villains throughout literature, that their only pleasure comes from destroying other things because they do not have the gift of creation, or the only thing that they can create is a plan to destroy. A quick pause there to think maybe about Krogstad, because he does actually have a plan in which he's going to try and create a better life for himself, but he is prevented really by Torvald's pride. So that would be a quick little revision activity for you to do. So in the next part, Eve is going to persuade Adam that they should work separately. Again, I'm just going to skip over the little AO5 slides. So, dawn. It's dawn, the light comes up, and how beautiful is the day. So it's like there's this huge altar, and all of the animals and the human pair send up silent praise, and then they basically kind of sing. They do their join their vocal worship to the choir of creatures. So it's a really positive start, and it emphasizes the harmony that is in Eden. And we want to think about that. It maybe linking with the opening of a doll's house. And is there harmony at the opening? Think about the fact that she's got to ring the bell. Think about her bringing the Christmas tree in. So we're looking at setting here. Eve turns to Adam and says, hey, you know what? We're not getting a lot of work done here. Although we're enjoying it, everything we do, one night or two with wanton growth derides, tending to wild. So she says, I've got a plan. Let's split up for a bit. Let us divide our labours. You go and do what you want, I'll do what I want, because often we get distracted by each other. Looks intervene, or object new, which intermits our day's work brought to little, though begun early, and the hour of supper comes unearned. Now, I said I wouldn't do context, but this was important, the fact that you think about what one of Adam's punishments is going to be, to labour. So Eve here actually presents a kind of a concern of the time, that you show your duty to God by working hard for him. So there you go, a little bit of extra revision for you to do. If you are, pause the video at this point, don't just skip through, go, right, I'm going to stop there and I'm going to actually do my AO4. Adam receives and returns there. Replies, let's go for that. Soul Eve, associate soul, to me beyond compare, above all living creatures dear. Let's look at the language he uses to talk about his wife here and how it will change. Remember, a bit further on, it's going to be just woman. Think again here about Torvald, my little squirrel, my little songbird, and then what he calls her at the end of the play. Again, pause the video if you need to. Look through that, make those notes, take your time. He says, look, you've put a good idea forward, well hast thou motioned. But, God hasn't given us any specific work to do. I don't think we should worry so much. And then he says, again, highlight this, for nothing lovelier can be found in woman than to study household good and good works in her husband to promote. This was a strong belief at the time. This is what Milton believed in, that the perfect wife, the best wife, supported her husband in his work for God. How do we link that with Mrs. Lind? And he says, you know what, and it's not like God has given us a schedule. He's not said when we're allowed to stop and talk, because when we talk, that is the food of the mind. And that's how we are separate from the beasts. But he ends this section by saying, but if much converse perhaps thee satiate, to short absence I could yield, for solitude sometimes is best society, and short retirement urges sweet return. All right, if you've had enough of me for now, maybe we could have a little break, because then you might miss me. This idea of solitude in the 17th century was an interesting one. It was met quite with some suspicion, because if you were being alone, how were you contributing to society? Whereas some philosophers and thinkers were saying, you know what, you need that time alone to actually think about how you're going to contribute to society. So even just something like that brings in this contextual debate. Think about Nora, who we never see alone. She's always thinking, or she's presented in relation either to her husband, her children, her friendships, or even the servants. Okay. But he's got another reason why he doesn't want her to go, and it's this malicious foe who might want to undermine them, attack them, do something to them. And he says, whether his first design be to withdraw our fealty from God, so does he just want us to stop being loyal, or to disturb conjugal love Does he want to disturb us having sex? Because, so leave not the faithful side that gave thee being. Now, at that point, that gave thee being, Adam's subtly reminding her that she wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for him. And this being, Adam, still shades thee and protects. The wife, where danger or dishonour lurks, safest and seemliest by her husband stays. Let's got the words dishonour and seemliest there. Why would she be dishonoured by being attacked by this malicious foe? How might this link to the idea of bourgeois respectability? To which Eve replies, look, I know about this malicious foe. I overheard the angel telling you about it, although she wasn't supposed to listen. She was in a shady nook. And she says, look, even if it does come and get us, we're not capable of death or pain, so it doesn't really matter. His fraud is then thy fear, which plain infers thy equal fear that my firm faith and love can by his fraud be shaken or seduced. So it's actually not him you're worried about, Adam, it's me. You think that I'm susceptible, and she's really upset by that. Why do you automatically doubt me? To whom with healing words, Adam replied, daughter of God and man, immortal Eve, from sin and blame entire. And he, tries to reassure her that, look, that's not what I meant. It's just that, you would be upset and I would be upset if this happened. And if we stay together, this enemy is not even going to try, he won't try and attack us together. And he reminds her that this is an enemy who is false and subtle. This is an enemy who persuaded the host, the other angels in heaven, to rebel with him. So if he could seduce angels, he might stand a chance with us. Plus, he says, if he does try and attack us and you're next to me, that will give me strength, because I would not want to feel the shame of you thinking I couldn't protect you. It would utmost vigour raise. So again, let's think about that. Does Torvald offer the same to Nora? Is he prepared to be the man? I mean, he thinks he will. He says that he would like that opportunity to protect her, to sacrifice himself for her until it comes along in real life. And Eve's not having that. She says, is this it then? This is our life? That we must constantly be in narrow circuit, straitened by a foe. And this isn't good enough. So frail is our happiness if this be so. And Eden were no Eden thus exposed. So she's already thinking about the limits of her experience, the limits of her existence. And again, she's more aware of that at the beginning of this book 9 than Nora seems to be of hers. Look at how the language has changed. Oh, woman, fervently replied. There's no healing words now. Best are all things as the will of God ordained them. Look, this is how we're meant to live. Right? So, listen, if we just do as we're told, we'll be okay. And this is a little tricky. He says, God left free the will, for what obeys reason is free, and reason he made right, but bid her well beware and still erect, lest by some fair appearing good, surprised, she dictate false and misinform the will to do what God expressly hath forbid. So he says, look, we've been given free choice, but we've also been given reason to figure out how best to make those free choices. And our reason is susceptible to things that might look good and might try and trick us. And also, let's not forget within this, contextually, the view that women were just not capable of reasoning as well as men. Seek not temptation then, which to avoid were better. Look, why go looking for trouble? Let's just stay here. Trial will come unsought. We will have to face this. Wouldst thou approve thy constancy, approve first thy obedience. And this is what Son of God will remind Adam of when he comes to give them their punishments. He will say to Adam, was she thy God? You were in charge. And Adam here is reminding her that the best thing that she can show about how she can be trusted is to be obedient. But he does end by saying, go, for thy stay, not free, absence thee more. Go in thy native innocence, rely on what thou hast of virtue, summon all, for God towards thee hath done his part, do thine. He says, but look, if you don't want to stay here, I'm not going to keep you, because it's almost like you're not here. So if you're going to go, go. But remember, God has done everything he can to help you. Look at those last two words of this section, do thine. So he puts the emphasis on her actions and her exercise of reason and free will. But she replies, with thy permission then. Is it permission? And thus forewarned chiefly by what thy own last reasoning words touched only, that our trial, when least sought, may find us both perhaps far less prepared. The willinger I go, nor much expect a foe so proud, will first the weaker seek. So bent the more shall shame him his repulse. Look, I'm safe. This foe, this malicious foe, is not going to try and attack me, because it would be shameful to him to be repulsed by the weaker of the two. Thus saying, from her husband's hand, her hand softly she withdrew. And that is the point at which she's never going to have that lovely union with Adam ever again. And I did set a homework for this. I'm recording this in March of 2022. To rewrite that conversation in modern English, because I think it helps you really get under the skin of what's happening. So hope you find that helpful.